AI made us watch Cutter's Way. Hi, everybody. I'm Eli.
I'm Diana.
Welcome back to AI Made Us Watch. Later in the episode, we are going to be joined by the great Julian Modugno.
Yay!
We're so excited to have him.
Can't wait.
But first, we've got a movie to talk about.
That's right.
This time, yes, we watched the movie Cutter's Way, directed by Ivan Passer.
From 1981?
That's right. The description of the movie that AI gave us is, why don't you go ahead and tell the people?
It said it was a mystery thriller film. The story follows a disabled Vietnam War veteran who becomes convinced that a local industrialist is a murderer, and he tries to prove it with the help of his friend and his friend's girlfriend.
This movie, to me, was if Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were suffering severe trauma, PTSD, and alcoholism.
I am so glad you said Butch Cassidy because I thought the exact same thing.
Very much. It even feels like that era of movie. This was 1981. This felt like a 60s movie.
It did.
Very slow pace, a lot of mood and tension.
Well, and it's based on a book, and it really shows, I think, because it's
like
so much a character piece about all these people.
Oh my God.
More than it is about what happens in the film.
Yeah.
And that felt very much like a book. And I almost thought, I was kind of thinking, I was like, I'm not 100% sure it's successful as a film to me. I was like, as a play, I think it would have been amazing. But I was a little bored.
I had no idea what was going on for the first 35 minutes of this movie. Mm-hmm. And there's one scene, and we'll get into it with a breakdown, where it's suddenly I was like, oh, there's all the information. Mm-hmm. I know what's going on now. But I'm curious about whether or not I felt it was successful. I think that it was.
Okay.
But let's talk about these people that you just mentioned.
Right.
And how this movie is about. It is a character study, I guess.
Well, yeah. So it's about Jeff Bridges plays Richard Bone.
Which, excuse me for interrupt after sentence one, but Jeff Bridges. I had
Young
no
Jeff
idea.
Bridges.
Oh my goodness. All
Smoke
abs.
Show.
The man is shirtless 80% of the movie.
Oh my God. He could not find his shirt halfway through.
Who wasn't fine with it?
I was like, and who's complaining? No one was.
And his jeans are always unbuttoned.
They sure were.
And it's just the lines, the V lines that people have. I don't know
where they come from, but maybe sailing, because he was a sailor. He liked to sail. They live in Santa Barbara. It is like the old Spanish Days festival going on. And he works at this marina as a boat salesman. Jeff Bridges also a bit of a womanizer. Women love him. Yeah. And so, of course, his name is Dick Bone.
Dick Bone. It sure is. Well, I was thinking Bone
Rich.
The whole time.
They call him Rich and Richie, but Dick is another.
I didn't notice the Richard thing, but you sure are right. It was Dick Bone.
His name is Dick Bone.
The guy is a wanderer. This guy can't be tied down. We learn that he's got probably an Ivy League background. Mm-hmm. He's very smart. He's very capable, but he's too anxious.
He's not steady.
He can't settle.
He's not a steady person.
So this movie was also very era specific.
Yeah.
It's very post-Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Very even probably a little bit post-Watergate. Just the trust. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into that too. But the idea of what America is and who anyone is while they're there, I think is very nebulous. And that's what's going on with these guys. They're really not sure what their place in the world is.
Mm-hmm. Dick Bone leaves the Il Encanto late at night to go see his friend, but his car dies in an alleyway. And a car pulls up behind him. A guy gets out. He doesn't see what happens. He's just like, some guy's there. He's like, I'm going to get out, put my head out. Maybe this guy will help me with my car. The guy does not. He almost runs him over. And just drives off.
Yeah. And then
he's like, what a dick. And he kind of.
And then the rain starts pouring harder.
That's right.
And he looks up and says, yeah, fuck you too. And I was like, oh, that is so relatable.
Fair. But he kind of don't think about it anymore. He goes to the bar to meet his friend, the other lead character, Alexander Cutter.
So the book is called Cutter and Bone. Mm-hmm. So in this scene, Jeff Bridges walks in, or Bone walks in, and Cutter is being the worst. He's drunk. He's spouting racist shit. He's being clearly an asshole to everybody at the table. I feel like everybody's got one sort of like kind of comes and goes in their friend group maybe who's just like, oh, this fucking guy's here. It's like you just can't quit him, but he's just he makes every adventure more difficult. Mm-hmm. So he's a disabled veteran from the Vietnam War. He's lost an arm, a leg, and an eye. It's very immediately apparent that PTSD, alcoholism, this guy is not okay. No. So Jeff Bridges walks in and Cutter immediately turns to him and starts calling him Ishmael and quoting Moby Dick. He's like, oh, here's the guy looking for his white whale. And to me, that was like, it was a heavy-handed reference that early on in the movie to me. But I also think that by the end, I was like, wow, that was
kind of what it was.
They kind of what it was. So these guys, old friends, kind of a messy relationship. It's clear that Jeff Bridges is the one who's a little more together, but also a little more aloof. And Cutter is a bit of a wild card. Hot, loose cannon.
There's some kind of privilege or class difference going on here because Bone has his Ivy League education. He's very handsome. He's got all his limbs. Everything's fine for him. No scars. So I think there's some bitterness there too. But that was kind of interesting. But the whole decor of the movie was that they're in this kind of rich they're selling boats, to rich people. So they're in this marina and people are sailing and yachting and they're at this polo club and everyone has a horse. Yeah. But they have nothing. Like their house is fine, but it's nothing special. And they just seem to be kind of scraping by.
Yeah. It's tough because Cutter is an asshole.
Yeah.
Bone is definitely more together and he's kind of trying to guide him and sort of like correct his messiness. And like, you can see he's trying to be a friend and be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't talk like that. Hey, maybe you shouldn't treat people like that. And Cutter is also kind of justified in saying like, you're really talking down to me all the time.
I kind of agree with Cutter. Bone's a bit of a coward. Yeah. I mean, he never wants to get in the middle of a fight. Even when he starts a fight, he don't want to have any involvement. He tries to be so detached. It's very frustrating. You do get frustrated with him through the movie. Yeah. How many times he's trying to absolve himself of any responsibility for anything. Yep. Of course, Cutter is an asshole. He's extremely acerbic person. He's very sardonic. He's snarky. He's pretty funny.
He's funny. This is a guy where I'm like, if you dropped the racist shit, we'd be okay here.
Be all right. It was weird. He was weirdly woke sometimes, though, because he was also talking about like slavery and indigenous people and like all this stuff during the Spanish Days parade. And I was like, he's just mad.
He's just a shock bro, too. Yeah, like he wants to get a rise out of everybody. He wants to piss off everyone in the room because he's looking for a fight all the time.
He's mad, and he wants to fight. So he's like, someone has to punch me first.
Yeah. But that brings us to the sort of crux of the whole movie, which is that when Richard Bone's car breaks down and he sees this mysterious figure, the next day we find out that there was a young woman who was murdered and dropped in a dumpster right near where Bone's car broke down.
In the same alley.
So the police show up and obviously they're like, we found your car next to this corpse. What's going on? They interview him. He tells them as much as, I did see someone. I saw a silhouette. It was dark. That's it. And that's all he'll say. They're like, can you give us a description? No, it was dark. And to your point, he just doesn't want to be involved. It's very clear. And the cop, very rude.
Very much against procedure, I'm willing to bet.
He brings in the victim's sister, older sister, and says, well, tell her that you don't want to describe what you saw that night. It's like, okay, this is a woman whose sister was murdered last night, and you're going to use her to intimidate your witness? Like, this feels
inappropriate on so many levels.
It feels like once you get to trial, that alone is going to upend a lot of
issues.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Bridges does not. He opts. It doesn't work. He leaves.
Then they go to this parade.
They're also there with Cutter's wife, Mo, played by Lisa Eichhorn. The first time we meet her, Jeff Bridges goes to their house and he's hanging out with her. We think they're maybe a couple.
They have a weird vibe.
And there's a great line. She's drunk. She's also seems very disturbed. Like she's not doing well.
No.
And Bone says to her, I don't like you when you're stoned. And she says, well, I don't like you when I'm straight. And he says, how would you know? And it was just like, oh, man, these guys have a real history.
She's like crying in that scene, too. She has like a single tear coming down her face. And then she says, I'm real happy with the way things are.
Oh, God. Then she mentions her husband, Cutter.
Alex Cutter.
Then we learn, oh, okay, it's not Jeff Bridges' wife. It's John Hurd's wife. And
this is where the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid
that's where I first started thinking about Butch and Sundance, for sure.
Me too.
Anyway, the three of them are at this parade.
I guess the Polo Club is part of it or something. Because we have this gentleman on a horse, big reflective aviators, and Bone suddenly goes, oh, that's him. That's the guy I saw yesterday in the alley.
Alex gets very interested.
For some reason, very fixated.
Very fixated. And he's like, that is J.J. Cord.
Mm-hmm.
And J.J. Cord is this oil tycoon in Santa Barbara. He owns everything. Yeah. He's the guy. So Richard Bone is kind of like, all right, cool, J.J. Cord. Well, let's not dig any deeper on that.
Hornet's nest.
Exactly. Cutter is the opposite. He's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Fuck out of that hornet's nest.
Smash this hornet's nest with the biggest hammer we can find.
And then burn all the hornets. Yeah. And ourselves.
And then pee on the hornet's nest and ask the hornets to come sting us, please.
Until we die.
Until we die.
That's what everyone wants to do, right? They keep talking about heroes, no heroes. Cutter is sort of disappointed, I would say, in Bone because Bone, of course, has no heroism in him. He does not want to jump in the middle of a mess and fix it for people. He has no impulse for that, but he's the one that's the witness. So he's the one that kind of needs to be involved.
Yeah, and I think that point about Cutter and heroes, this is where that sort of post-Vietnam PTSD and anger at your country and everything is coming into play here. And I first was like really questioning throughout a lot of this movie. I was like, why does he care so much? And why does Bone want to avoid this so much? You've got someone like Alex Cutter who is so distrusting and so angry at what he had to go through, what he lost in Vietnam, which is, again, an arm, a leg, and an eye. That's half of each of those things.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he just clearly got blown up on one side, and just everything's gone.
Yeah. You can see his frustration, that speech he gives about no heroes anymore, and how somebody needs to stand up to these people. And that's sort of where he goes with it, too, is also this anti-capitalist sort of thing. There's these rich guys. They can get away with anything. We're left with nothing.
That's right.
And somebody's got to stand up to them. And this guy literally murders someone. What are we going to do about it? Are we just going to let it happen? But he's so obsessed with it, you kind of start to question whether or not the evidence is real. Because at this point, all we know is that Bone says, I saw a guy in the alley. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was him. Yeah, that's him. And that's it. Cutter says that's enough. This guy did it.
Well, then he goes and finds a lot of, pretty good evidence.
Yeah, I think so.
He builds a pretty fair case.
I think so, but it still feels like a conspiracy theorist board to me at times. It feels fair. A little much, where I just don't know what to think.
Yeah, I think you're right that he's just kind of becomes an avatar for the government that sent him off, those rich kids that didn't have to go, even Bone to an extent.
Yeah.
Everyone that he's angry at, he's like, it's right within my reach.
Yeah.
And I can just take care of it.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah. So Cutter is not having it with Bone being resistant to getting involved. So Cutter goes and gets the sister, Valerie. And he said, and he brings her in. He's like, now you've got to get you want it. You can tell me that you don't want to go after the guy that killed this girl. But why don't you tell it to her sister's face?
So he's just like the cop.
Yeah, he is. Valerie is also very invested.
And a weirdo.
She's a weirdo.
Valerie's weird as shit, y'all.
Valerie's weird, but Valerie's like, this is immediately after her trauma. And they come up with a plan to blackmail J.J. Cord. They're going to send him a letter and say, we know you did this.
Right.
And they say, once they blackmail him, if and when he pays them the money, that's when they'll go to the cops. They'll say, look, he paid the blackmail. That's an admission of guilt. They'll turn in the money and justice will be served, is their plan. What do you think? Do you think they were going to give the money back?
No.
Yeah.
I did at first, but then Mo hears about the plan because
Cutter's wife,
Yeah, Cutter's wife, Mo, finds out about the plan because Bone makes Cutter tell her.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was going to wait till after we did it. But I guess I got to tell her now. And it starts a big old fight because Mo's like, y'all are fucking stupid.
This is stupid.
That's a crazy idea.
It's a crime.
And
Blackmail's
also
a crime.
She's like, get fucked, sweetie, to Valerie, because she's like, your sister just died 2 days ago and now you're trying to cash in on her death.
Trying to cash in, yeah.
And I was like, if that wasn't true, she wouldn't have asked him later, like, what do you think? Do you think I'm wrong to try to cash in? I was like, so she was going to keep it.
I think so. I think that they both were. I think Valerie is severely traumatized by the death of her sister. Cutter had also kind of manipulated her, or at least found this vulnerable person and was like, hey, you need to help me get this guy, get my friend involved. And so I don't think she's thinking straight. So I think that's one of the reasons that she seems so crazy. She's flirting with both of them. She's like, even tries to kind of seduce Bone.
Kind of. She like opens her shirt and puts his hand on her tip.
Yeah. And
he's like, no thanks.
He's like, no, you don't want this. I think he recognizes that she's a little traumatized and not thinking clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And she's dealing with Cutter, who's a very, not even deliberately, but he's just one of those magnetic people. People flock to him, no matter how destructive he is. He sucks people into his world.
Right.
And she was in a very vulnerable position for that.
We also know that he's a very good liar because we see him in a scene. He like deliberately destroys the neighbor's car.
Oh, yeah.
He like runs
comes
into
home
it multiple
drunk.
times.
Yeah.
So, of course, the neighbor calls the cops. And he comes out to the cops and suddenly it's like he has never drank a drink in his life.
Yeah.
He has like perfect speech. He's very calm and
Officer.
reasonable. Oh, yes, officer. I know. I did not know my license was expired. You're just going to have to cite me for that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do your duty. And I know something about duty. You know, like he's playing up the veteran thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, which I kind of get too with his characters. So he'd be like, what's the other perk of my fucking service?
Yeah.
That I get out of tickets. That's what the fuck I get out of it. Like, I could see him very much feeling that way. But, of course, the neighbor's hella pissed because he's like, this guy destroyed my car.
Just destroyed my car. And the neighbor, of course, gets really mad about this. So the cop thinks, well, this guy's being irrational. And this nice veteran here, hit your car because you parked in his driveway.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is not what happened.
Cutter's a very good liar. He can certainly act well.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of see that part come out a little bit very clearly. And other times he's so drunk and destructive, you're kind of like, why do you guys hang out with him?
Right.
But there was a moment where
he's just got that riz, right? He's just got charisma and he's able to get people to do what he wants. So they got this blackmail plan. Bone, not into it. And Mo is sensibly... You guys are insane.
Mm-hmm.
This is Mo's one scene where she has decided to go to the grocery store instead of the liquor store. So she comes home with a bag full of groceries. She's very proud of herself.
Yep.
She's like, we're going to have some actual food around here. Great line from Cutter where he says, oh, food? I remember that stuff. They used to eat that during the Prohibition, right?
They had to live on that during the Prohibition, right?
Sometimes for days on end.
It's such a good, it's
so funny.
Sometimes for days on end. But then she's like, I'll take it all back just to make you happy.
Yeah, she's really sucked into this guy.
But that's the Butch Cassidy thing, too, is that Jeff Bridges' character is clearly really into Mo.
Yeah.
And she's really into him.
Yeah.
But, it's like unspoken and they don't ever touch. And, it's clearly a thing they can't ever do.
They're just besties. Yeah.
Because she's married to his best friend.
She's married to his best friend, yeah. But they decide they're going to go through with it. Okay, so this is around the time, but I'm wondering at this point what the hell is going on.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I don't really fully understand that he's a boat salesman.
No.
I don't know who George is.
George is their friend. Keeps popping up.
Just keeps popping up.
And
George,
paying for stuff.
Yeah. Then, like immediately when I'm asking that, they go to this restaurant. I think that's when we learn that he's a boat salesman, that they work for George. George works for Cord. So George is Jeff Bridges' boss. And Cord is his boss. And Alex is at this restaurant, this patio, talking totally openly. This Cord guy killed this girl. I'm describing it in graphic detail.
Yep.
Then George shows up. What the hell are you guys talking about? Oh, he's telling me that this guy Cord killed this girl. And George is like, hey, this is Cord's place. Like, Cord's wife is sitting right behind you.
Oh, yeah. And we've seen her several times being like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
Like, she definitely heard them.
Yeah.
That does explain a little more why Bone is like, man, that's, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
He owns everything. It's Cord Marina, Cord Oil, Cord this and that.
Yep. This is when we get the speech from Cutter about wanting to take down corporate America and all the haves and this upper echelon that he feels is very responsible for all the damage that he's received in his life. And I think, reasonably so.
Right. Also, the juxtaposition between the two of them is that Bone is kind of a have.
Yeah.
Like he got a nice education. He didn't have to go to war. He's clearly doing fine. I mean, he's not like, he doesn't have a solid home and like whatever, but he's got a career and things seems to be okay for him. And he's rolling along just fine.
He's selling boats and has a boat. Yeah.
So he's feeling like I have stuff to lose and Cutter doesn't.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is the problem with guys like this. It's always guys like our ass is on the line. Our ass is on the line. It's never their ass on the line.
Yeah.
It's funny for him to be saying that to Bone, whose ass was not on the line in the war.
Yeah.
but is now on the line because they're saying you're the witness, you're the one in danger.
Yeah.
So he's like, I want you to put your ass on the line for my thing. So it's just a kind of it's a contradiction.
Yeah, and I think they tell him that. They say Bones says it. He says, you guys want to do this plan where you blackmail JJ Cord, but I'm the witness who saw him. So I'm the one that's going to be in trouble.
My ass,
And I think, that's when Cutter's like, get used to it, man. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Bone does agree eventually that he's gonna sign this letter. That's when they tell Mo about it.
And can I just quickly say it's irrelevant. I'm sorry, but Valerie's braids in that scene were weird as shit.
I didn't notice.
How could you not? She's got all her hair down in the back, but then these two little weird fucking Leia braids going on in the front in this asymmetrical way. And I was just like, I'm like transfixed by how strange
it's
this hairstyle is.
1981.
They're trying things.
America had no idea we didn't know who we were. And maybe that's why, that sort of trauma just causes you to do weird shit with your hair.
Maybe. I could also see her doing coke and just braiding and thinking, twirling and
Could've
twirling.
been. They were drinking.
They were drinking hard.
Constantly.
And he even said stoned in that line, but
people used to say stoned for drunk.
For drunk?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Stoned just used to mean
fucked up.
Fucked up. Yeah.
Okay. My favorite term for being a little bit drunk is squiffy.
Squiffy?
Squiffy. It's very British, but I think it's funny.
Not knowing that definition, I would have described Jeff Bridges' character as very squiffy in this movie.
I could see it. I could see it.
He was like very sort of iffy, but a little squishy.
Kind
of squiffy.
He's a wishy-washy.
Yeah.
That's what's frustrating about him. It's like, even in the beginning, as you're saying, like, earlier on, you're kind of like, well, this guy's sort of more reasonable. He's trying to be like, hey, we don't have no evidence.
Yeah.
Try to relax. All that's circumstantial. The time that he left the hotel and the time the body was found and blah, blah, blah. And like his big car and like all these things that seem to line up. So, so obviously for Cutter are not lining up as much for Bone. But then he does agree, and then he keeps like, well, now I don't agree. I agree again. I don't agree. So, it's like, all right, like, make up your mind.
Yeah, because they do agree to do this letter. 3 of them type it up together. Jeff Bridges signs it. He's like, yeah, we know you did this, Cord, so we're going to call you and set up a meeting, and then we're going to blackmail you. Very crazy plan. I'm kind of with Jeff Bridges or Mo, more realistically, when I'm like, this is stupid. It's a crime. You're going to get yourselves killed. And at the end of the day, like hell, you're going to give that money back. You're just trying to get some cash out of this, and it's dumb.
And that's what Mo saw, I think.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Exactly. They go drop the letter off.
Right.
Jeff Bridges goes inside. He says, and he comes back out. He says, I did it. I gave him the letter. I delivered it to one of the secretaries or one of his assistants.
They're going to call me at 1.
Who said, oh, I'll personally deliver the letter to Mr. Cord, and you call us at 1:00. They go to a beach carnival somewhere. Cutter eventually, hey, it's time to call. Bone makes the call, says, oh, okay, well, all right, I guess that's it then. And tries to tell Cutter, it's no deal. They're not taking the blackmail deal. Let's just drop it. This whole thing's done. Cutter presses him, and he reveals, all right, fine, I didn't give him the letter. I never turned the letter in.
Right. He was hoping
I chickened out.
Y'all would just give up after you didn't get a response.
But Cutter freaks out.
Yeah, of course.
Cutter loses his mind. He starts shooting his gun off.
Then George is at the marina. He's like, hey, you're going to have to settle down sometime, old Richard Bone. You're not going to be able to, why don't you take more responsibility around here, blah, blah, blah.
Gives him the dad talk.
Yeah. And he also has a good line where he says, Cutter offered to sell me the next 5 years of his life in exchange for $50,000, and he wouldn't damage my merchandise. And what am I supposed to say to that? Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? I love that he was like, he really thought about where to get the money. And I was like, funny. This is where we still don't really understand George's relationship to Cutter.
Yeah.
Because he's also always like helping Cutter. He's forever giving him money and stuff. We don't really know why that's going on yet.
I love that line. I also love the line George tells Jeff Bridges. He's like, why don't you stay here? Just come on full time, permanently, be my boat salesman.
Yeah.
I'll give you 5% of everything you sell. And Bone says, how much do you get?
Oh.
Which, I mean, again, is a little bit of a critique. I get 5% of everything you sell. Sounds like you get 95% of everything I sell.
Right. Unless he's like, well, I get 45%, and then the marina owner gets this amount,
JJ
and
Cord
then they get something this amount.
Which, sure, but again, when you're just the salesman, I just thought it was a little taste thrown in as kind of a bit of a joke, but it is still a little taste of Jeff Bridges hearing the kind of thing that radicalized Cutter.
Yeah.
Right?
Boss makes $1, I make a dime.
Yeah. So big fight between Cutter and Bone.
And he heard this from George, you know, you really got to make a decision about something sometime. And he looks at a picture of Mo.
Yeah.
And he goes back to Mo's house.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's decided, I'm going to try to do something with Mo.
Well, Cutter told him after they're fighting, fine, why don't you just go? If you think home is where the heart is, then why don't you just go there? I bet Mo's real lonely too. So Cutter already knows that they've got he made several jokes about it throughout the film. Yeah.
So he goes back to the house. They're flirtatious, dancing, romancing, whatever. Yeah. Mo at first is like, no. I'll lose a friend. It's not a good idea.
Oh, can I stop here real quick?
Yeah.
Is this something that used to happen more and it doesn't happen as much anymore? Or listeners, y'all tell me if you do this. Puts on a song and slow dancing in the living room. All by yourselves. That's so weird to me. And I feel like I see it in movies a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if this is something people used to do. Like Captain America. You know, with Peggy Carter. Is that just a lost practice, or did no one ever do that? Because that's insane to slow dance in your own home with no one else around. I don't know. Before the internet, people did all kinds of crazy things.
I was about to say, I think it just changed because now people like twerking in their living rooms.
But are they? Would you like you and I would slow dance with you at a function where there is dancing.
Right.
But I don't, it'd be so weird to put on a song and slow dance in the living room just to pass some time. Maybe our relationship is broken. I don't know. Maybe everybody does this but us.
Well, guys, let us know if we need to get the romance back up.
Yeah.
A new spark by slow dancing alone in our living room. No, but this is actually a crazy situation. So what happens is he goes home. They have this flirty dance, whatever. Yeah. She's like, no. And then she's like, yes, they totally fuck. For the first time. She cries during it.
I was fascinated by this scene because very close shots, this very fast, like was transfixed with this shot because it's very close on their faces. And Jeff Bridges on top of her, kind of kissing the side of her face as she's turned away and she is crying and he's whispering, I love you. And I was just like, wow,
she looks sad as fuck. She does not look like she's having fun. Or that she's crying from happiness or anything. It is so weird.
We had the captions on and it said sobbing. Now, okay, so I don't think that it's necessarily because of what she was doing, but rather this whole reflection on how her life has gone, where she is, how she ended up here, her entire situation with Cutter and Bone and everything in between, like an entire midlife crisis happening during one sex scene.
Yeah, I think also, like, while they were kind of macking on the couch and will they, won't they, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I wonder if he only wants her because she's the only woman that he can't have. She's the only woman that won't fuck him. So maybe that's he just likes to chase, and it's like the forbidden fruit.
Yep.
And she even says it afterwards.
The next morning,
she's like, oh, there you go, no more holdouts. And I was wondering if some of her tears were, well, now he won't care.
Oh.
Now he won't care. He's gonna walk away. That's what he does. He don't stay.
And she says, I finally joined the Richard Bone fan club.
That's right. No more holdouts.
No more holdouts. Yep.
And she says, did you really mean what you said? And he said, I told you I loved you. I think I meant it. Yeah. And she's been like, well, you just stay one night tonight. Yeah. And of course he fucking doesn't.
She says, will you stay with me just this one night? She's very, very, it seems very important to her.
She has a whole... this actress was amazing. I'm going to say she was very good. Lisa Eichhorn, is that right? And she has this whole speech to him about how she's like, sometimes I have to go look in the mirror to see if I'm still here. And I look and I wonder if I ever really cared. Can you please stay? Just for tonight.
Just stay for tonight. They know that Cutter's not coming home.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And so
then she falls asleep
on the couch. And he waits till she's asleep, and he gently gets up, and he grabs his coat, and he tucks her in, and he fucking walks right at the door.
And she wakes right there.
And then her eyes open. She was awake. I think she was awake the whole time.
I think so. She wanted to see if he would stay. It was a test.
And he didn't.
And he fucking didn't. And then guess what happens?
So the next day, Richard's on the boat, and George comes to get him. He says, very frantic. He says, where's Cutter? Where's Alex? He says, he's in L.A. What do you need? He says, you got to come with me. And now the three of them are standing outside of Cutter's house, and it is burned to the ground.
Like,
torched.
Frame only left. Nothing is left.
This house is... Honestly, I don't think, like, no fire trucks would have to have come for it to have burned as much as it did. Like, it was a bit overburned, I think, for realism. I kind of
agree. Like, I was like, you would have had to put bombs all around it and, like, in the middle of it to really get that effect.
It was like
there was, like, not even a piece of wall left.
Yeah. So this becomes the question now. Alex, of course, already in conspiracy mode, he immediately thinks Cord did this because Alex and Valerie, the sister, decided they were going to go turn in the letter without Jeff Bridges. They were just going to do it. That's why he was in LA. They went to go deliver the letter, the ransom note, and say, we're blackmailing you. We know you did this. Give us the money, whatever. And so he says, he's telling Bone, like, it's not even about the letter. You were in the paper as the witness to this murder. So JJ Cord has been watching you this whole time. He knows everything about you. He knows, where you have breakfast in the morning. He knows everyone you know. He knows all your information.
All the ladies you've racked in the past 10 years.
In the past 10 years. He's got their names. Mm-hmm. And he did this. He burned down this house because he thought you were there. He didn't see you leave. He just didn't see you leave.
Another thing where you can see why he would draw that conclusion.
Right.
But also a giant accusation to make with no evidence.
It's huge. And, and also, again, trauma because Mo died in the fire and that's Cutter's wife. And for as much of an asshole as he is, you get the impression he really did love her.
I think he really cared about. I think they had probably a beautiful relationship before the war, maybe.
Yeah.
And that he was this really fun and charismatic person.
Yeah.
And she was really trying to find that guy again.
Yep.
And she was always hoping to see him again.
Yeah.
And I don't know that she was a big drunk before or if he was or what. Yeah. But now she is waiting for someone who's probably not around anymore.
Yeah. She says, like, when are you going to start? I'm waiting for you to start living again.
Then they go to the polo club with George.
Yeah.
I guess just to, like, get their mind off of everything.
You don't turn down a fancy polo day when your boss tells you we're going to play polo. And George starts playing polo and Cutter and Bone have another fight.
Right. Because JJ Cord is there. He is part of the polo club as well. So they kind of see him across the field looking super happy, just fine, doing fine. And it makes Alex Cutter really fucking mad. He's like, look at that murdering bastard. Like, you need to help me with that. He killed Mo. Killed Mo. Don't you even care about that? And he tries to go towards JJ Cord and maybe accuse him of something or whatever he's thinking. He's just like going right across the polo field. Very dangerous. Could get totally trampled by horses.
Oh, absolutely. So not to mention ruin the game.
And the game, of course, most importantly, the score. There's a lot of bets riding on this score.
Does polo, I feel like polo probably has a rule already for there's a drunk on the field.
Got to.
They have something that happens for their scoring. Like, they're ready for that contingency.
Of course, Bone is like, you can't just run up to a guy like JJ Cord in the middle of a huge fancy place and accuse him of murder. So let us grab you. And he gets him and he's like really breaking down. Yeah. It's also at this point that Valerie is no longer a part of the story.
Valerie pretty much disappears at this point. The sister. It's like we don't see her again.
We don't.
I wasn't really sure. I mean, again, so Cutter and Valerie, last we knew, went to LA together to take the letter to Cord. Mm-hmm. And then
we never see her again. Or she is not mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's like, what happened to, it's all about the sister wanting to revenge or something. Like, she's got no stakes in this now all of a sudden. So that was really, again, just a frustrating character because I was like, why was she ever here? I guess she really had no point, and then she's gone. I didn't really get it. I'm assuming she's in the book. I hope she gets more closure in the book than she got in the movie. But
I think it's really in the closure where it was lacking for me. I didn't have an issue with why her character was there, or I actually was very interested in her character for a lot, which just made it more frustrating when she didn't come back, because the last act of the movie here is really just Cutter and Bone. Mm-hmm. So Cutter, and I'll go back to Valerie, but Cutter stays at George's guest house. And he goes he literally pulls out on the billiards table. He's got all the pictures, the Time magazine cover of J.J. Cord. He's got, all this stuff laid out. He finds this evidence. He says that Cord actually killed George's father.
Right. And this is actually around the time that we finally find out George's relationship to them, because he goes to Bone and is like, please help me with Cutter. He's like barricaded himself. He won't come out of the guest house.
Yeah.
And, his mom took me in when my parents died.
Right.
So he's like a brother, I'll do anything for him. And you're like, oh, okay. So they're like brothers, like a serious brother relationship.
Exactly. And we found out that, and he says, and after that, Cord took me in when I had nothing and gave me, my business act. He taught me how to be a businessman.
That's right.
And gave me my marina and all this stuff.
So he's like, so what is the deal with this whole thing? Can you go talk to your friend?
So poor George is just stuck in the middle of all this. Again, they're weighing these wild accusations against a guy that he knows not only to be his boss, his mentor, and someone incredibly powerful that you don't mess around with.
Right. But then this is when Cutter is like, oh, well, of course George is scared and doesn't want to go after him.
Yeah.
Cord killed his dad.
He says that Cord wanted George's dad's marina. George's dad originally owned the marina.
But he wouldn't
sell it. So Cord, what did he do? How did he have him killed?
He said he killed his old lady, killed George's mother.
Uh-huh.
He killed his father's wife and made him really depressed. Basically, Cord's responsible for the fact that George has no parents. And then he got all this marina and all this power, and that's why he is who he is. And then all of a sudden, Cutter's like, all of a sudden, he takes all this interest in George and sets him up and stuff. No, he was trying to buy his silence about his dad, and he didn't want. So, of course, George is scared. He knows, what this guy is capable of.
Yep. Well, Cutter convinces Alex, we're going to steal George's invitation to J.J. Cord's party.
Fancy party.
At this house. Beautiful hacienda.
Oh, gosh, gorgeous.
And they crash it. They've got Bone dressed up like a chauffeur. He's got the hat on and a suit and everything. And Cutter's in the back seat pretending to be rich guy George or whatever. He says, Mo would have loved this. She loved playing dress up. Once again, Dick Bone, does what he does. And he says, you know what? I've come this far, but you're boned. I'm out of here.
I'm not doing it.
I'm bailing. He literally gets out of the, Cutter gets out of the car and starts walking to the party down the driveway. This is where Bone's like, oh my God, my friend's going. All right, fine. I'm going to go after him. It's probably the first time he decides to take a forward action instead of a backwards action.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Cutter is at this party, like, being obtrusive.
He's got a gun, too, in the car. He's definitely, like, he cocks it and stuff, and he makes it look like, and Bone is like, what, are you going to kill him? And he's like, yeah, that's what I do, or something like that. That's what I do, yeah. I guess he's a soldier.
Yep.
If you don't want to come, it's fine. I get it. Yep. I'm going to do it. And he gets out the car. So now he's like, oh, shit, he's about to assassinate this guy at a party. Uh-huh. So, yeah, he's probably like, I got to go get my friend.
So he slips into the party, too. So now Bone is walking around and, like, he's very handsome. So he glides right in. He starts mingling. He's looking for his friend. He Mrs. Cord from the restaurant clearly clocks him and says, this guy don't belong here. And she bumps into him and he says, oh, my name's Alexander Richard. And she says, okay, good to meet you. And then she immediately goes tell security, like, you got to get that guy out of here.
Right.
So he slips away and goes to find Cutter.
Right.
But then security shows up.
So he's trying to, like, avoid security, and he goes up to this totally random woman and is like, just put your arms around me. And she's like, what? And he's like, hi, I'm Richard Alexander. And then he's like, yeah, put your arms around me. I'm trying to avoid somebody. Just laugh like I'm saying, now kiss me. And he kisses her. And she's like, I don't usually do stuff like this at parties. And then he just leaves. And she's like, well. And I was like, this poor lady at this party. She just had a very strange encounter.
Very handsome man just came up, all flustered, made me kiss him, and then disappeared into the night. Into the day.
It's very bright daylight.
Yeah. Eventually, security does run them down. They snatch up Bone. That's right. Cutter escapes. And they bring Richard Bone up to J.J. Cord's office. They're like, he wants to speak to you. The boss is going to talk to you. I think was the exact impression of the character in the movie. The boss wants to talk to you.
The boss wants to see you.
And so Bone goes and talks to J.J. Cord. J.J. Cord is standing in his office. It's the first time we hear him speak. And he's like, hey, I understand your friend has a bit of a bone to pick with me, Mr. Bone. And he says, yeah, it's this crazy thing. He thinks he killed his wife. and this other girl and all this stuff.
This is where I started to believe Cutter even more, though, because he like knows a lot about Cutter.
Yep.
He's like, he's a veteran, right? Oh,
Yep.
yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he knows all this stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was kind of lending a lot of credence to Cutter's whole thing about, oh, he's rich. Don't you know, as soon as your picture was in the paper, he found out everything he needed to know about you and me. We've been watched this whole time. Like, they know stuff.
And Cutter is making an escape by stealing one of the polo horses, tries to run from security, and doing that. So previously, when Bone first approached Cutter at the party, he told him, "Give me the gun."
Mm-hmm.
And Cutter said, "Look, it's not even loaded."
Yeah.
But now Cutter is charging on horseback straight at the window to JJ Cord's office.
And I would say he was never trying to escape.
Oh, no, yeah.
He got away from security, but he was not trying to
escape.
leave.
No,
he definitely wanted to get back to Cord.
And he rushes in and he jumps from the horseback and smashes through JJ Cord's window and lands on the ground. Bone runs over to him, holds him in his arms, and Bone says, he did it.
Mm-hmm.
Cord did it.
Cord did it.
Cord did do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cutter dies, like right there in his arms from, I guess, all the glass and everything.
It's the only realistic window break I've ever seen in a movie.
Seriously.
Except for Mr. Nice Guys or The Nice Guys or whatever that was called.
And he looks up at JJ Cord and he says, "You did do it."
And he says, "What if I did?"
I was like, oh shit. All right.
He did do it.
I guess he did do it.
He did do it.
Bone looks up and he takes Cutter's dead arm, raises it up with the gun in it, and JJ Cord puts his big mirrored sunglasses back on. Says, "So what if I did?" And Bone shoots.
That's right. With Alex's finger on the trigger.
With Alex's finger on the trigger. And blackout.
And that's the
Credits
end of the movie.
roll. That's the end of the movie.
Big moment a few scenes earlier when I discovered that John Hurd, the dad from Home Alone. Just want to throw that out there.
Also, very, very shocking to learn that because I did not recognize him as the dad from Home Alone. You were like, he's the dad from something.
I was like, I see him in khakis and he's like, "Okay, honey." Like, I was like, I don't know why.
I don't know. That was unrecognizable to me because he's got an eye patch and a beard and long hair.
There were times though, it was like the one side of his face. And I was like, I swear to God, he's telling somebody to calm down. I can see it.
Okay, so where are you at in this movie? I feel like you're more torn than I am overall.
I mean, I think it was a really good movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the acting was great.
Yeah.
I thought John Hurd was really great.
Yeah.
And I thought there was a lot there. That was really rich. There was a lot of subtext that you could get. That's how the acting was so good.
Yeah.
The script was very, very good. I thought it was good. I think it just was not a movie that I would put on.
Oh, sure.
Just for fun or something. It was a little ponderous. The pacing was a little slow.
Yeah.
There were times when I was a little like, I don't know. But, you know, I've had that problem before. I think it's just an attention span thing as well.
That's fair.
And like I said, too, I like to read, and which is funny to have a bad attention span and like to read. But but I was definitely like, man, I feel like I would want to read the book and get plumb into the depths of the character the way a book is usually able to do in a way that a show is, the movie isn't. But I would say I think that they did manage to put a lot of that character development into him without having to say that much.
So much that is performance, because I was just going to say, when you're talking about this, you get a paragraph of text in a book to do what an actor has to do in a glance.
Yeah.
You know, in a single expression sometimes.
Right.
And you have so much to cover with just visible nuance.
Right.
You know, is all you have to play with. And for that, like, I was like, any part in this movie would have been the best part to get to play. I mean, maybe again, Valerie had a little less in terms of depth, but I was fascinated by her motivation because I do think that what was tough about Valerie as a character and what I found so interesting about her is what's motivating you to even do this. And I do feel like it's trauma. I do feel like it's that crazy thing. Something horrible just happened to you and you're kind of like kooky and laughing about it and like, oh, I'm going to go do a crazy thing right now. And someone needs to sit you down and say, no, I need you to feel what you're feeling and process it and not do anything rash.
And it might be that she found out about the house burning down and Mo being killed and she got scared off. But I am annoyed that they didn't just close the chapter on her.
Right.
But yeah, Mo is an incredible part to play too. She
so
was
good.
Also, I thought she might be one note because, we first meet her and she's a drunk.
Yeah.
And drunks generally are just drunk. So you're like, uh-oh, okay.
Yeah.
But she was not.
No.
She really gave you a lot to work with. And I thought she did it beautifully.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was like I would study it before I'd watch it
100%.
for entertainment, I guess.
Hundo. This is very much like a film school movie.
It is. And you could sit down and break down the analysis. And we were talking about the time it was made, the politics of the time it was made. I mean, the trust in the government is to your point, with Watergate just happening, with Vietnam. People were lying about Vietnam too. So it wasn't just Watergate. It was like Lyndon Johnson.
Right.
With people already pissed about him.
Yep.
Then coming back and being a veteran and having given up so much, and then also have to deal with the fact that a lot of people were very against the war, so they were mad at you for going.
Yeah.
So they didn't even bring that up, but I know that was part of his anger and trauma too, would be coming back to a very ungrateful nation who thought you shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, and getting lumped in with the American soldiers who did do terrible things in Vietnam. And
exactly, and we don't know that Cutter didn't. He's a wild card, so I don't know what he did, but whatever he did, he clearly didn't like it. He did not like. That was something, it just, every delivery too, like the way they would deliver a line, like they just said a lot without saying a lot. Like him saying, that's what I do. Yeah. I'm going to kill that guy because that's what I do. He was so upset to say that and know that it was true. Yeah. Like I felt like he was like, I'm disappointed. That's why I wish I was dead.
Yeah. They turned me into a weapon. And
I'm
that's
a
what I
killer
am
now. And I hate that about myself. And I wish I was dead.
Very Winter Soldier.
Yeah, very Winter Soldier. So,
and Jeff Bridges, then also, the juxtaposition visually between them was so interesting because you've got John Hurt playing a guy with missing an arm, a leg, and an eye. He's always walked him with a cane. He has a hard time getting around. People have to carry him half the time because he's so drunk. Mm-hmm. And he is running full force into the battle all the time. And Jeff Bridges is this tall, gorgeous, handsome, fit. He's strong. He's just got abs for days throughout the whole movie. Mm-hmm. They've shown him off the whole time. And you're like, this would be the action hero.
Yeah.
And he is terrified of conflict. He's really he has clearly bounced from every situation he's ever been in because conflict arose. And he's like, time to go, time to move on to another city. Mm-hmm. And that, to be able to play against type like that, I thought took a lot of skill.
I think he did it well too because he managed to look like he had a lot of reasonable justifications for not getting involved and but he looked scared.
Yeah.
Every time he said it, he looked like he looked like a little bitch. Kind of. He was like, I'm kind of a little bitch. And you're just sort of like, okay, this guy is such a coward. And it was frustrating even for him to be like, yeah, I get it. I want to kill him too. But you can't just be doing that. We have to go to the cops or something. Just something more assertive. But every time he's like, I don't know, man. Like it was so...
Let's just let this go.
Wishy-washy, squippy. It's just like, you're so soft and whatever. You're right. He looked like a hero and Cutter did not.
Yeah.
Cutter wanted to be a hero. But what does that heroism cost you? And what does it turn you into? And what does it really mean to be a hero and stuff? All of that was kind of in there too.
And what are we talking about here with all this? Moby Dick. Which again, the very, very first scene with them in the movie. And he Cutter calls Bone Ishmael. And I can't remember. I mean, it's been 25 years since I read Moby Dick. But Cutter was very clearly an Ahab character. He had, his white whale was J.J. Cord. Mm-hmm. And he said, will stop at nothing. I will destroy myself just to get this guy. Mm-hmm. And Bone was, kind of a boat anchor about it. Where is the rational, reasonable thing to do? It's somewhere in between what these guys are doing.
Right.
Somewhere, certainly Cutter was being outrageous about going in guns blazing, literally, to this guy's party and taking him out and that being justice to him. But Bone being on the other side of it and saying, let's just ignore it. Let's just pretend this never happened.
Yeah, that's not right either.
Is not justice either. Yeah.
And then, of course, the twisty turn of I'm talking about a pillar of society who has every resource at his fingertips and I have nothing. Yeah. I can't go to the cops. Why would that be useful? Why would the justice system put this guy away? And all of that distrust, too, really playing into that decision to kind of be vigilante about it.
Yeah. Now, Richard Bone does pull the trigger at the end.
He does.
So his sort of cowardice, I mean, I don't know if it took his friend's death or if his just realization that oh my God, he really did do it. All my I have nothing to doubt anymore. That chaos put him in the position where he took the action for Cutter.
Yeah. And I think it might have even been a different action if Cord had been like, yes, I did do it. But instead he said, what if I did?
Yeah.
He was basically, what you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You know?
Challenging him to take action.
And then I thought it was interesting that he's very shaky holding this gun. And you can tell that Cord's like, he ain't going to fucking do nothing. Puts his glasses on. I was like, why would he put his glasses on inside?
He loves wearing those glasses, though.
But what I loved about it is that they're very reflective. And he had to look at himself.
Yeah.
And see himself do it. Take the action. And I think he could not watch himself not do it.
Oof.
I think he said, well, he had to look at his face and he said, you have to do it. You can't not do it.
Amazing.
Wow. I think I was a little frustrated that it closed immediately after that because I'm like, what could possibly be the aftermath of this?
Oh.
But that's also wasn't what it was about. It's about him learning to finally commit to something. And he committed to his friend's, life mission
rogue
at that
cause,
point.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's pull in a speculation station here. What happened? What happened after?
I don't know, because I was like, first of all, the only people in that room are him, this guy who crashed through the window, which everyone saw.
Yeah.
And Cord.
Yeah.
Right? But no one else is in there. For some reason, security saw this horse go through the window and they haven't got there yet or something. But they're like, oh, whatever, we'll take care of that. Maybe they're on the way. I don't know. But so I was kind of thinking, I was like, well, he uses Alex's finger, so he could retreat himself, across the room, or like go over to Cord and be like, oh my God, and be like, oh, this guy crashed and he shot him. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I tried to stop him.
Like he could totally try to play it off.
He could.
I don't know if it would work because there is a blackmail letter out there signed by Richard Bone to JJ Cord.
Right.
And that could certainly, if you wanted to do a procedural, they could track that shit down and be like, this is reasonable cause, whatever. But I was like, it's possible that he gets away with it.
And that is possible. I have an alternative idea. An alternative. What about this? We come back from the blackout. We see Richard Bone holding the smoking gun. Yeah. The camera turns and we see JJ Cord standing there and there's a bullet hole in the wall next to him, right behind. And Jeff Bridges stands up with the gun and he's like, look here, this is the last time you're going to murder a girl in my town. In fact, I'm the oil man now. You're going to give me everything you got and otherwise I'll expose you. And Cord is like, whoa, you spared my life. I guess I owe you everything now. And it becomes Richard Bone consolidated oil.
That's funny because that's what oil is. It's dinosaur bones.
There you go. Full circle. And now he's the oil guru. And he, and then you see him driving down the street one night and he's in his fancy car and he's got this really nice suit on and he's got mirrored sunglasses. And then he passes a young girl in the street and he pulls over and she's like, oh, I could use a ride. And then we black out again. And you're like, the cycle continues.
So he's become the thing
he swore to destroy. Yeah. Or that his friends swore to destroy.
Yeah. Wow.
Because that's America.
Damn.
How about that?
Hollywood.
Cutter's
Reboot.
Way.
Sebastian Stan.
Cutter's Way 2. This is a sequel.
Oh, you're right.
Because it picks up right where it left off, and then it's only 3 minutes long. But it's just a post-credit. I'm just going to make a post-credit sequence to Cutter's Way.
Where we find out what happens.
Yeah.
The cycle continues.
And then I'll contact Tubi and say, hey, can you guys stick this on at the end of the credits?
Just real quick. You don't have to pay me anything.
Yeah. I'll get Jeff Bridges to come play JJ Cord as a throwback reference.
Right.
And then I think Sebastian Stan, great choice.
For Cutter. And then who's our Jeff Bridges?
Well, Cutter's dead. So it's just Sebastian Stan laying on the ground dead.
Oh, that's true. And then we just cut to...
Hey, if anybody could do it, Sebastian Stan.
But he can lay there dead, if anyone. But who's saying, like, okay, you owe me everything now?
Who's the modern day Bone?
Yeah.
Who plays Bone? I don't know. It could be...
we need like
Austin
a hero type.
Somebody tall, though. So maybe Jacob Elordi. I don't know if he's any good.
Right.
I always saw him on that thing. He's tall.
Like Liam Hemsworth.
Maybe a Hemsworth. Any Hemsworth.
Sort of a tanned sailing guy, so I'm thinking about blonde.
You know what's funny is actually in the very beginning of this movie when we first see Jeff Bridges looking super hot, I thought of Chris Hemsworth. And then I thought, oh, that's why Fat Thor looks like the dude. Because Jeff Bridges, if you make Chris Hemsworth a big guy with long hair, he still looks like Jeff Bridges, but older Jeff Bridges. So maybe there's something there. So
Hemsworth Bridges connection.
Hemsworth. How much did you say Hemsworth? Jeff Bridges, Hemsworth about 10 Chris Hemsworths.
I was going to say Hemsworth about 2 bridges.
Hemsworth about 2 bridges.
Old and young. Well, how about you? I mean, you let me talk about my reaction.
Look, I really liked it as kind of like you said, as sort of a study piece. It took a minute for me to figure out what the hell was going on. It took literally, I checked, it was the 35-minute marker. And I was like, oh, that's who they are in their relationships and what they care about. But
and even closer to the end before you find out who George is related to them and stuff. So it's like very...
But I sort of appreciated that in a way too, because you experience this story rather than being told anything.
Yeah.
And so for that, I really enjoyed it. And I thought the commentary was brilliant. I thought, in terms of, there's just a couple of monologues where it really breaks down what the movie is saying without being too expository.
Or preachy.
Or preachy or anything, yeah. And I thought it was cutting. It cut to the bone in terms of what it was saying about where we were at the time. And I think it's pretty relevant still. And the performances were incredible. Really, Valerie was the biggest thing.
It was really just like, Valerie was the most...
What's going on?
Egregious. I was like, where she suddenly has no stake in this story at all because it's all about Mo dying, like Vicky never died. It was just... I will say too, what I loved was that the characters were very flawed. No one was right. No one was fully right and no one was fully wrong. Yes. And I appreciate that a lot because that's so much more real to life and a lot harder to write and a lot harder to act. Yeah. And I think they did it really well.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think I do like the movie. It was just one, I wouldn't be like, let me recommend you to sit down and watch Cutter's Way for a good old night at home, family movie night, kind of thing. But it was very good. So I think that score it has, it's got a very high critics score.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it deserves it.
Well, a couple things that the AI got wrong. So time to chastise the AI a little bit.
Yeah.
We have, first of all, you said Lindsay Krause is in this movie. No, she's not.
Lisa
Never heard of it.
Put some respect on her name.
Lisa
and Ann Dusenberry were in this film, but not a Lindsay Krause.
And they were both excellent.
Excellent.
Your original description that you gave us this movie was very wrong because you said this film is known for its unique blend of mystery and thriller elements set against a backdrop of the early 1980s New York. The plot revolves around a sound engineer who accidentally records evidence that could prove fatal, intertwining his life with a mysterious woman and a complex web of intrigue. It's a film that explores themes of obsession, paranoia, and the murky depths of the human psyche, which is not totally wrong, but also totally wrong.
Yeah. Like we thought for so long it was like Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction. Right. It was like some kind of sexy
80s
thriller,
New York,
80s New York.
Mysterious woman, complex web of intrigue.
Definitely an 80s Santa Barbara, very different from New York.
Other side of the country. There's no sound engineer. He did have evidence of a murder that could prove fatal. I mean, that part was true.
Intertwining his life with a mysterious woman. I don't know if she's mysterious more than she was like fucking bizarre, but...
And I thought themes of obsession, paranoia, and the murky depths of the human psyche were all
still
sort
accurate.
of in there. Yeah.
Still accurate. And it said the tagline was, somewhere between the innocent girl and the not-so-innocent mistress is the bizarre, sensuous story of Redacted, a woman who lives a double life.
Absolutely nothing to do with this movie.
There is nothing sensuous about this film.
No. And then lastly, we asked you if there was a famous line from this movie, and AI told us that a famous line from this movie, it says, it might not be universally recognized outside of its cult following, but the line is, he'd kill us if he got the chance. Which might have been a line that was said in this movie.
Maybe.
Cutter certainly could have said that about Cord, or maybe Bone did, or even George.
I feel like they never
But I
said
don't think
anything
they said that.
flat out.
No.
Like they were always like, he's coming for you, or he's after you, or, you don't know what he's capable of. But they never straight up said, he's going to murder you.
No. So I think you got that one wrong, too.
There was some wires crossed with a different film here.
Yeah. But,
for sure. But yeah.
So Cutter's Way, I think worth a watch.
Yeah.
I'd say it's worth a watch. Do you think it's worth a watch?
I think it's worth a watch.
Okay.
For sure.
Educate yourself a little bit. Get some film history here.
Sure. Get.
It is a film.
It is a film.
Yeah.
It is an actor's film.
Yes.
And a filmmaker's film.
Yep.
But I think it is still a great movie, and there's still a lot to enjoy about it. And I think it was good.
But we have some really exciting news, because we're going to find out what movie AI is watching us next.
Yeah.
But this time, and for the first time, we're not going to do it alone. We have a friend coming to join us, the great Julian Modugno, who is just a hilarious and dear friend from long ago.
From many years. We've done much comedy with Julian.
Oh, he's the best.
And had many a fantastic movie night.
Mm-hmm.
So we are very much looking forward to having him on.
Sucking him in. So we will be right back to find out what that movie is.
Yeah, don't go away.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here to find out what movie the AI is going to make us watch next week. Yeah. And we have with us today our good friend, Julian.
Yay!
Who has joined us in our battle against the AI.
Hello. So happy to be here as humanity's last hope.
Yeah, it's just the three of us now.
It's in our hands. It's all in our hands.
I feel confident.
I feel
good too.
Much better hands than these.
Yeah. Do you want to tell anybody about your hands?
My hands are...
Small, I know.
I'm Julian Modugno. I've known y'all. We've been creative cohorts for 2 decades.
2 decades.
2 decades.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good night.
I know, right? That just made me tired.
Yeah. All the way back when we were 6 years old.
Yes.
I'm an improviser. I write comedy. I'm a Gemini sun, Leo rising, but I have a Cancer moon, which is why I'm so humble.
And
able to relate to others. You have enough information to reverse engineer my precise date and location of birth, so good luck.
Great. That's what we need to know.
Good luck.
And now AI has your voice.
Oh my God, terrifying.
No, it's taken your voice too as
sorry,
the AI.
Julian.
This AI is very powerful. It's snuck into our TV and it steals the voice of anyone who comes in the room.
Okay, can it sneak into my student loan account? But take my voice. It can take my debt.
Put some zeros.
This is the real goal. This is what you should be working on, AI.
Yeah.
This is the kind of useful shit you could be doing instead of making us watch random films.
Right. Speaking of, you got to tell us to watch a random film. So AI, what film do we have to watch next week?
With Julian. With us this time.
I love watching movies.
Yeah, Julian's more of a film person than we are, so he might actually be able to guess this film.
AI didn't know that I have a Bachelor of the Arts in film and video.
Well.
So,
some excuse. My degree's in theater, so
So we're all on a podcast.
That's why we're all so broke.
Oh no, AI's glitching out. It seems to only be able to speak as a mid-Atlantic high society housewife.
Uh-oh.
Oh, darling, what a marvelous selection we have today. Gather round as we explore a cinematic adventure steeped in both science fiction and comedy. A blend as rich as a fine Bordeaux. Released on the 1st of August in the splendid summer of 1986, and don't I remember that summer. It promises giggles amidst galactic escapades. Now, do be a dear and ask away as you try to unveil this film's identity.
I want to know what AI you specifically remember about the summer of 1986.
Wouldn't you like to know?
I would. That's why I asked.
Girls don't kiss and tell, you know.
Who did you kiss?
Hey, I can kiss.
Now I feel a little left out, honestly.
How about a big kiss, AI?
How about we get a smooch?
Oh, you are such a charmer.
Okay.
Well, let's stay focused on the cinematic delights, shall we? Perhaps you'd like a hint or two about the director or the starring thespians? Feel free to inquire as you wish, my dear.
Okay.
So a 1986 sci-fi comedy.
Sure.
That's what we know so far, right?
86 sci-fi comedy.
Right?
I mean, I have some guesses. It's the giggles amid galactic escapades that
Oh, yeah,
there's
sure.
some things I'm focusing in on. But
What are you thinking?
Yes. What are you thinking?
I mean, I feel like Spaceballs was later.
Doesn't it seem like Spaceballs was like 88 or 89 or something? Like
I was
one of those
thinking about
almost 90s movies?
Earth Girls Are Easy?
Oh.
Not like in the 80s, late 80s?
Is it Earth Girls Are Easy?
Oh, sorry, I had to finish my martini. What a delightful guess. But no, it's not. Earth Girls Are Easy. This particular spectacle involves another kind of extraterrestrial interaction.
Oh. There's aliens.
Sure.
We knew that.
We knew there was
Extraterrestrial.
galactic.
We knew this was
Galactic.
Escapades.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad Saved the World was 90s now. That's not it.
Mom, Dad, I never
Barbarella's
thought.
too early. Zardoz is too early, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. My goodness.
Zardoz.
Zardoz.
I wish it was Zardoz.
What is Zardoz?
It's the one with Burt Reynolds and like the red mankini.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. I've never seen
Connery?
it, but I have.
Sean Connery, I
Sean
think.
Connery?
Burt Reynolds,
One of them.
Sean Connery.
Interchangeable,
One of those
honestly.
hairy 70s guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
What am I, a
got you.
boomer? Like I'm not gonna know.
Okay, AI, give us an actor in this film.
Certainly, my dear. One of the leading lights in this interstellar romp is none other than the enchanting Leah Thompson. Isn't she just a gem? Now do continue your inquiries, or shall we discuss another star of the show?
Leah Thompson.
Who is Leah Thompson? Why
She's
is
the
I
mom
just-
in Back to the
in
Future.
Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, wait, so is it Back to the Future too?
But they don't go into
They
outer
don't-
space.
Extraterrestrial. I mean, it could be just wrong.
It could
It
just be
is
wrong.
wrong a lot.
Sure.
AI, are you wrong?
I've never been wrong in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.
Those memories are corrupted.
Too many dry martinis to the hard drive.
Is she in
right.
anything besides Back to the Future?
A lot, I think.
Probably things.
A lot,
Yeah.
I
But
think.
there's like something, some genesis of something forming in my head.
Mhm,
Where's your
mhm.
Bachelor of Arts now?
Yeah, give us that film degree pitch. What would you put Leah Thompson in a galactic comedy movie? What would it be about?
She would be, I'm not going to say she's the lead, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Sure.
Maybe
Right.
a romantic lead,
Okay.
but I mean, it was also the 80s, so I don't know how many female-led space comedies there were.
A great point.
It would definitely be campy.
Mhm.
She's definitely going to be in like a short sleeve shirt on a spaceship.
Oh,
That's a
100%.
guarantee. I mean, you know what I
That's
mean?
crazy.
Wait,
Like,
short
she's-
sleeve shirt like a space shirt, or just
No,
she's in a
I
t-shirt?
think she's in
Just
like
like a
modern.
t-shirt.
She's in like Earth clothes and just
Okay.
ended up on the
Yep.
spaceship.
Yep,
Okay,
definitely.
So she's like a
Um,
Van Halen shirt.
Sure.
on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
spaceship.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's
Mhm.
good. That's
Ship.
good.
Yeah.
Or a Paula Abdul.
What's the tagline of this movie?
But to maintain the mystery and allure of our game, I must hold on to certain secrets like a lady does her pearls at a gala. However, I'm here to provide any other delicious details you might need about our movie stars or its director. So, do ask away, and let's keep the ball rolling, shall we?
Wow.
Wow. That's a good martini.
That
That
is
sounds
a
really
big swig.
fucking good.
Wow, man, pour me one.
Really fucking
I'll
good
have what
martini.
she's having.
I
Yeah.
know.
Apparently, the tagline's too much.
I know
Tagline
that
is
there's
too
like a
much.
viewer at home right now that's screaming at us.
I
It's
always
like,
think
Every
that.
How many Leah Thompson
It's
sci-fi
up.
comedies are there?
It's clearly.
It might be Spaceballs. I think that we might still be
In Spaceballs
going back to
territory?
Spaceballs. She might be like the Princess Leia character in
I
it.
thought that was
It might be Leah Thompson. We might have been right
She is like curly brown
right at the
hair.
gate.
okay.
Maybe. I mean, you may as well guess it. Spaceballs.
Give me another actor
Because
before
I
we-
think the tagline of Spaceballs is, it's Spaceballs.
Right?
Oh well, that is a good.
There's another actor in this movie.
Absolutely, darling. Another splendid performer in this delightful fiasco is the ever so talented Jeffrey Jones.
Hey,
I don't know.
Do you know anything else about Jeffrey Jones?
Yeah.
that you're concerned about?
Ah, Jeffrey Jones. Indeed, a notable figure in the cinematic world. Often recognized for his distinct character roles that add such flavor to the screen. He's particularly known for his roles in comedies during the 1980s and 90s. However, he has also been surrounded by controversy in his personal life, which has somewhat shadowed his professional achievements, but you know I don't like to think about those horrible, nasty things in the world.
AI really nailed this mid-Atlantic
Yeah.
high society. She was like, oh, yeah, there was some unfortunate business.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
We don't talk
That
about
had really
that.
overshadowed his
Mhm.
other work.
Is there like a famous line from this movie?
Oh my. This film does have its share of memorable quips, though perhaps not always celebrated for their wit as much as their sheer audacity.
Okay.
One line in particular might tickle your fancy. No more Mr. Nice Duck. Quite the peculiar exclamation, wouldn't you agree? Sounds like something the mister would say after a few of these perfectly stirred martinis.
No.
I'm stunned. You told me that the AI was evil, but I didn't realize it was this evil. It's truly picked one of the worst
Is
bombs
this
for
seriously
us.
Howard
is
the
it Howard
Duck?
the Duck?
It's Howard the Duck.
Oh, bravo!
Wow.
It is indeed Howard the Duck.
No!
The film is quirky and peculiar as a hat at Ascot.
What is that?
What is a hat at Ascot?
Yeah,
Howard
I do need
Ascot.
to know what ascot means in this sentence, Jet.
Isn't
What do
an
you
ascot
mean
a type of tie?
By hat?
What a delightful inquiry. You see, at the Royal Ascot, which is a prestigious horse racing event held annually in England, and of course I've been because I get the mister to take me every year, attendees often don exquisitely extravagant and sometimes quite whimsical hats. And we always drink champagne. So when I liken Howard the Duck to a hat at Ascot, I mean to suggest it's unique, bold, and memorable, like those fabulous creations seen at the races. It's just a bit of fun with metaphors, my dear.
Just a
Metaphors and martinis with AI.
So,
bit of fun.
yeah. So Howard the Duck is
Howard-
like an extremely expensive fascinator worn at a British horse race. Yeah. You know?
Good comparison,
That's
yeah.
exactly
That's
what.
Truly, our greatest minds have come together to create this algorithm.
Darling, have you seen Howard the Duck lately? It's almost as dazzling as your hat.
Okay,
Well, Howard the Duck.
we gotta go watch Howard the Duck.
We have to watch Howard the Duck.
None of us have seen Howard the Duck?
Somehow, no.
Wow. It's time. I
All
guess
right.
today's the day. You only live so long before you either live long enough to become the villain or watch Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's how it goes.
This
Well,
might be our villain turn. So
This might be it.
I'm ready.
This would do it. Well,
I'm ready to
sorry,
go.
everyone. I guess we're watching Howard,
Howard
the,
the
Duck.
Duck.
Howard the Duck. Wow.
So sorry, Julian.
All
Our
right.
I'm
first
thrilled.
Our
I'm
first
thrilled.
guest.
I've been meaning to watch it for years, and now
It's
I
true.
can finally cross it off my list.
I love it.
It's
All
true.
right.
All right, everybody, we're off to watch Howard the Duck, so you watch it too so you can know what the hell we're talking about, because we won't. Thanks always for listening. AI Made Us Watch is a Squirrels in a Trenchcoat production. I'm Eli Banks.
I'm Diana Banks. Please follow the show on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at AI Made Us Watch, and you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Dynamite Boom.
And I'm at Oh Great, It's Eli. Julian, thanks for coming on the show. Do you want to tell the good people where they can follow you?
Yeah, sure. Follow me on my regular old personal Instagram at History's Greatest Monster, or you can follow my improv Instagram, which is Daily Special Comedy.
forget that
It's a great at. We love a good at.
If you love the show, you can help us out by following us on Patreon. Our top tier is the Touring Masters. Right now, we want to thank Barbara Banks.
And maybe you next time. You can also subscribe, follow, and drop us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever real human podcasts are downloaded.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you for Howard the Duck.
Love you. Bye.
Now we're trying to save the world as we race against the clock. But at least we don't have to pick tonight because AI made us watch.